Well, to do just that, to try to stop the Obama administration from launching illegal strikes in Syria. There are numerous reasons to be opposed to this action. I think probably the most important one is that the consequences most likely would be quite horrendous. First of all, you're going to have civilian casualties as the U.S. is launching missiles into Damascus. Secondly, it's hard to imagine that this would take us any closer towards bringing about a ceasefire, which is what's necessary. Also, this is a distraction from providing humanitarian aid. The most immediate need in Syria right now is provision of humanitarian aid. That should be priority number one. The Obama administration has not prioritized it. Simply look at the amount of money spent towards the warships and then the amount of aid being provided. There's quite a disparity there in favor of the warships.
There are a lot of refugees in there in Syria. Some of them came over from Iraq. So people are saying if there is an attack, it's just going to make more misery for them. Where are they going to go? They'll be trapped here. So that's just another reason not to do it.
I agree. Like I said before, it's almost impossible to imagine that a U.S. military strike would have any positive consequences on a humanitarian level, as well as bringing getting closer towards a ceasefire. In fact, one of the consequences would probably be to push Russia away from the negotiating table. Russia's the main backer of the Assad regime. It's a likely consequence, and probably become even more intransigent. So, again, that's an obstacle towards enacting a ceasefire, and a ceasefire and providing humanitarian aid should be the top priorities right now. It's also, I think, important to look at the pretext that the Obama administration is using to justify the intervention, and that is in part to protect the integrity of the international ban on the use of chemical weapons. I mean, that's a total joke. First of all, the U.S. has used chemical weapons in Iraq as well as Afghanistan. For example, white phosphorus, which literally burns the flesh to the bone. They've used that in Iraq. The use of depleted uranium in Fallujah. There's a massive humanitarian public health crisis in Fallujah. And the research, if you follow the scientific literature on it, there have been numerous studies on this case. It points towards, not 100%, but it points towards the U.S. use of depleted uranium as one of the major causes of the health catastrophe in Fallujah, which is should be an international crisis. The problem is the U.S. is barely reported on by the U.S. mainstream media. Israel also used white phosphorus. Human Rights Watch, for example, documented this in a report, used white phosphorus in its attack on Gaza in 2009. What did the Obama administration do? Nothing. So clearly the Obama administration has not taken a principled stance against the use of chemical weapons. Instead, they're using this as a pretext to justify an intervention in Syria, which would probably have disastrous consequences.
Sounds like it's very hypocritical for them to condone these other uses and then make a big deal about this.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly hypocritical. I mean, this follows the pattern that it's okay when we or our allies do it. We can commit war crimes, we can use chemical weapons, we can provide our allies with chemical weapons, but when an enemy does it, well, then that's a problem. So clearly there's hypocrisy there. So Obama's pretext is, it's a pretext, it's bogus. He's not interested in enforcing the norm of compliance with the ban on chemical weapons use. I mean, a norm would mean across the board. Instead, the U.S., the Obama administration, is selectively appealing to that in order to justify an intervention. And I think the most important thing, well, one of the most important factors now is that the UN investigators should finish their investigation. Obama officials actually tried to prevent or to stop short the investigation. This was reported this week in the Wall Street Journal. So it doesn't appear that the Obama administration is really interested in actually finding out what happened and then moving from there and attributing responsibility. And the administration has not provided any decisive proof that the Assad regime did it. And I think we should wait for the evidence before making decisions.
Anything else, Stephen?
No, that'll be it.
Okay, thanks so much. Your name, sir?
I'm Charlie Cooper.
And Charlie, what are you doing here tonight?
I'm really concerned that given all that the United States has done in the region of Syria in the last decade, that anything the U.S. does will make matters worse and will stir up more enmity against the U.S. And I fail to see how it would protect the Syrian people or deter further use of chemical weapons.
So if you were advising the president, what would you tell him?
We should really put energy into humanitarian relief and diplomacy. I think that right now the situation with the motley crew of rebels in Syria and the horrible government of Syria does not make for there's no easy way to support one side or the other, and it's going to be a better outcome. I find it compelling when I hear Syrians asking for U.S. military help, because I think they're fairly genuine cries for assistance, but I don't think really that the military help would bring the assistance they seek.
Be counterproductive.
I'm afraid
and
so.
And who can you tell who's on whose side and who are these guys, you know? I mean, who are the rebels?
Right.
You know? Anything else, Charlie?
I heard Tariq Ali, an important and well-respected Middle East analyst, say that there's a possibility that a disaffected military officer in the Syrian military may have done this to bring shame on Bashar al-Assad. And so the question is, if that's a scenario, how would we know that? And how would we deter further actions like that by bombing what? What are we going to bomb there? Airplanes, anti-aircraft equipment? We're not going to get the weapons. The weapons are underground somewhere, and I doubt we know where they are.
Thanks so much. What's going on tonight, Sharon?
Well, tonight we've begun a series of demonstrations across Maryland, from Frederick in Western Maryland to Baltimore City. Here we're going to be converging in Washington, D.C. tomorrow at 11 a.m. The Syrian community from Allentown, Pennsylvania is going to be joining us, along with many other groups and individuals at the White House at 11 a.m. and we'll be protesting till 2 p.m. We expect probably the local people to be there by 12, but we have people traveling to this White House for a regional protest to say hands off Syria.
Are you disappointed by the attitude that President Obama has taken towards this crisis?
Well, we expected that this government would continue with this, what I call imperial attitude, the imperialist attitude, that they want to continue this adventure, this military venture based on lies, basically. That's going to threaten the entire region. That's basically going to take money out of people's pockets. It means, like, for instance, one cruise missile is $1.5 million. That could build 11 schools right there. That's one argument. But the bigger argument really is that a war predicated on total lies will devastate that region, much like the Iraqi war killed hundreds of thousands of people and maimed and destroyed the lives of many GIs who went into that U.S. imperialist adventure.
And, you know, if they do these military strikes, a lot of innocent people are going to get killed.
Absolutely.
And many of them are going to be refugees, and some of them are Christians that came there from Iraq.
Right.
So it's a real mess.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was saying, is that, you know, people are going to suffer more. the suffering is going to be increased. And I don't think that either the Pentagon generals, the war contractors, the billion-trillion-dollar oil companies, those who want hegemony in this region of the world could care less about the lives of these people, whether it's in Syria, whether it's in Iran, Iraq, or anywhere in the world, and especially right here at home even.
So if they want to follow up on what's happening tonight here in Baltimore, they can go to D.C. tomorrow.
They can go to D.C., they can go to the IACenter.org, IACcenter.org. They can call 443-221-3775 to get information, not only on tomorrow's activities, but future activities.
Anything else, Sharon?
No, just that, this has been an amazing show of support to stop the bombing and to stop any war in Syria. And we're encouraged by the calls that we've been getting from all across the region. And we expect tomorrow to be great.
Thanks so much,
you.
Sharon.